Think Progress put together a list of the top 10 travesties of justice in the year 2013. I have to give you some of these because they're all incredible. Get this, an Alabama blogger named Roger Schuler wrote about an extramarital affair of a prominent lawyer rumored to be running for Congress, and he got locked up because of it. The clearest violation of the First Amendment I've ever read about in my entire life. It was a traffic stop. They stopped him at a traffic stop, and they said he violated a court order to shut up about this guy's personal life. And he's like, what are you talking about? I have a First Amendment right to do that. They said, oh, really? We don't think so. Threw him in jail. He's been sitting in there for 2 months. He's still there. This is the United States of America, but I guess when we're talking about Alabama, it's like a Christian theocracy in the middle of the United States of America, where it's a police state, and they throw you in jail if you offend people in power. We discussed this one also. A guy by the name of Khalif Browder. He was 16 years old and walking home from a party when he got picked up by cops and shipped off to Rikers Island with no trial and no explanation. And he was held there for 3 years and eventually just released. And the authorities just crossed their fingers hoping he wouldn't sue. But he did sue, and I hope he wins millions of dollars because it's like we're fucking talking about somebody living in Pakistan in this kind of scenario where they just take you off the street and lock you up for years without any due process. Ezekiel Gilbert is a guy who hired escort Lenora Ivy Frago and gave her $150 for what he believed was a payment for sex. But when she didn't deliver that, Gilbert shot her in the neck, and she died several months later from the critical injuries. And a jury acquitted Gilbert after his lawyer argued that he was authorized to use deadly force under a Texas provision that goes even farther than Florida's stand your ground law in authorizing the use of deadly force to, quote, retrieve stolen property at night. Yes, you heard me correctly. Somebody killed their hooker and then argued, well, I was allowed to do it because she didn't have sex with me that very second. And the jury agreed, yes, you can kill your hooker because she didn't give you pleasure that very second. You're legally allowed to kill somebody if it's after dark in Texas and you believe they've wronged you in one way or another. How amazing is that? I mean, that kind of a law, you're making Somalia look like a first world utopia with a law like that. Are you insane? Ethan Couch, this is another guy who we talked about recently. He got away with his affluenza defense. I'm too rich, I don't understand the consequences of my actions, so therefore you can't punish me because I don't know what I'm doing. Now, what I said when we first talked about this story is the same thing I believe now to my core. If anything, that's more reason to punish him. Yes, you got away with everything your entire life. You're admitting that. You don't have any idea about the consequences of your action. So now we will punish you for what you did when you killed 4 fucking people when you were driving drunk. And you are going to learn the consequences of your actions, son. That's how this is going to go. But the judge fell for it, and the judge is an idiot. The judge should be fired immediately. Should step down, whatever. Get that asshole off the bench. Probably has a low IQ and doesn't know whether they're coming or going. We also got this. The top Enron fraudster is going to spend less time in prison, 14 years to be specific, than a father who sold his own pain pills, who's going to spend 25 years in jail because of mandatory minimums. And the way that the father was set up drove me crazy. Here's a guy who needed pain pills because one of his eyes got taken out in some sort of an accident, and this guy befriended him. Little did this guy know he was a federal agent, but this guy befriended him, and he got into his life, and they hung out all the time. And then the guy said, look, let me buy some of those pills off you because I have pain or back pain or whatever it was. And the guy's like, all right, I mean, I know I shouldn't do this, but give me a few bucks, I'll give you some of the pills if you need them that badly. They locked him up for 25 years because of that. That guy, who was just looking out for his buddy, basically, is going to spend more time in jail than somebody from Enron who got away with one of the biggest financial frauds in American history, or is spending 14 years at a resort. And people wonder why your average guy gets mad and is, afraid to talk to the cops or afraid to go through the system. Because there's 2 different systems. There's one for the rich and the powerful and one for the rest of us. Dwayne Buck is the last one I'll give you guys here because the list goes on, and I know it's totally morose and depressing. Dwayne Buck is a guy who's sitting on death row after somebody argued at his trial that he should get the death penalty because he's black and therefore more likely to commit more crimes. Yes, he's black, kill him, was the argument made in court. And it stuck! And it worked! Oh! That's the noise of pain coming from me. And as a last mention, which I have to throw in there, when you want to talk about injustice, George Zimmerman. George Zimmerman got away with it. Unbelievable.